So we've been talking about personalisation for quite some time, and as Suraj sort of alluded to earlier, Harrow Council...
I didn't mention who it was, Matt.
Oh, okay. Well, they're here anyway. Yeah, they liked the sound of it and gave us a bit of a challenge, and we went away and built something for them. So what I'm going to do is kind of show you, which some of you may have seen, it's slightly adapted, but it's kind of a presentation on our vision for what personalisation within the Jadu Continuum platform can offer. And then I've got a live demo, and having never done a live demo ever, well, we'll see. So really, the idea of personalisation is about turning websites on their head. So, you know, at the moment we have the notion of a single website serving thousands and thousands of users. And what we really want to do is turn that on its head and have lots of flavors of that website serving an individual user based upon what we know about them or what we can, you know, get from data about them. So what we want to do is kind of really use this data that we're not really using right now. I read something a little while ago that 90% of data that's held in data centers is what's known as dark data. It's unstructured. We don't use it, we don't access it, but essentially it's stuff that we can be using. You know, it's things like what devices are being used to access where they're coming from, what time of day, all that sort of stuff. And what we can do is correlate all of that and kind of make some assumptions about the user. And what we have is what we call signals, and these signals are these data sources. And we've got some examples of that today. And what we can use those data sources to do is to make some assumptions or assertions about the user, and then give them the content that's relevant to them. So what sort of signals can I mean? Well, you know, if someone's been on your site several times, you know, they can build up a history of the usage. They can, you know, search on Google, and when they land on your site, you can see what they've searched for. Of course, we can tell the device type. If they previously registered with you before, they might have given you some preference details. In the Jadu marketing module, we've had that functionality for quite some time, and then you can sort of target adverts to them. Of course, we can see their geolocation, so these things tell us where they physically are in the environment. If they've been to your website and they've sort of, you know, said, this is where I am, giving you their postcode, we can sort of localize some of that information. We can connect, you know, see whether it's on a Wi-Fi network or a mobile network. We can also detect things like browser settings. So if someone has a particular browser setting, it might be that their default browser language is set to French. That will give us some information. We can also see what the ambient light is. So this is information that these things tell us right now. This is what I mean about the sort of data that we can sort of get. And then we can correlate that with things like we know what the time of day it is, day of the week, time of the year, what the weather forecast is, maybe what's popular being searched for on the web, maybe what's being popular searched for on your own sites. And then we can look at, you know, maybe social media feeds. Then what we can do is build a picture up of all of those things and start to personalize content. And we have the notion of what we call fat and thin personas. And what I mean by that is a fat persona is someone that we know a lot more about. They've been to your site before, they might have registered with you. A thin persona is someone that we know nothing about, but we can use all of this data to make some assumptions or assertions about them. So what I've got really is kind of, you know, some signals which I'm going to demonstrate today. So this could be, you know, geolocation, so somebody that's in your area or outside of your area. When we were working with sites like City of York, for example, I think it's something like 65% of the people that visit the York City Council website aren't local residents. They're probably going there as tourists, yet what they get when they land on that website is all of that kind of apply for it, pay for it stuff, which isn't really relevant to them. We can also change the behavior of the content based upon the device that we know that they're coming from. So somebody that's coming from a desktop or a mobile are probably wanted to do different things. And of course, if they've been to your site before, we can start to build up a picture of what they've looked at. So if they look at one thing only, we can maybe move that up in the navigation. We then have content that you can tag. So what we want to do is have content within our CMS that we can say, right, this is relevant to if it's being viewed on a mobile device. This is relevant if it's outside of your area or inside of your area, or whether it's on a desktop. And then what we can do is present that information to the user. And of course, there's lots of signals that we can use. So I was talking about, you know, the sort of like the weather signals. So a few weeks ago would have been quite useful. You know what the temperature is going to be. It's going to drop below a certain level. So you can push that content related to school closures or road gritting right to the top of the website. And, you know, so essentially, you know, the website's taking care of itself. So what do we mean by persona? So this is what we call a Fad Persona. So this is Susan. She's a mother of 3, lives in a fairly affluent area of Manchester. She's previously visited the Manchester City Council website before. She's given them some information about herself. We can then know that she is interested in these things. So on the left-hand side, we've got a flavour of the Manchester City Council website that is not personalised. So right at the top, we're seeing things like council tax, bins, work, libraries. But because we know a little bit more about Susan, what we're seeing here on the right-hand side is schools and education, childcare and nurseries, the things that she cares about. Also, the events and the marketing stuff that's held within the CMS. We can bring those to the foreground as well. So this is stuff that you can pretty much do right now in the CMS. Then we have what we call a thin persona. So this is someone that we know nothing about. Can you guess what nationality this person is? So this was kind of a real persona. So, Canterbury is a big tourist destination. This is Hugo. He's arrived in Canterbury, high hopes to do some really cool things, but it started to rain. So we started to Google things to do in Canterbury. And inevitably, he's found some of the council assets that they maintain, some of the tourism elements. We know that he's on his iPhone. We know that he's French because his browser default language is set to French. Now, this is an old version of the Canterbury website. This is something that we showed them some time ago now. But again, on the left-hand side, this is what your local residents would see. So, they apply for it, pay for it, report it. But because we're taking those data signals about Hugo and applying them to the site, we can say, well, he's never been to the website before. His browser language is set to French. So we're going to show him some of the commercial assets that we have as an organisation. So, he will visit the Canterbury Cathedral. We're also going to show him indoors-based events. But the reason why we're showing him indoors-based events is because we know it's raining. So that's the sort of level of stuff that we can do right now. And personalisation is about kind of catering for, essentially when you've got lots of people. I mean, when we start to work with local authorities, what we often get is, depending on who owns the website, whether it's comms or marketing, whether it's customer services, they're all kind of vying for space on that homepage. And, a lot of this can help cut through that. It can also help, sort of commercialise some of those assets like your leisure centres. So, on a bank holiday Monday that's really nice and sunny, lots of people are probably going to think, oh, let's go to the leisure centre today. So you can push that content up because it's a bank holiday, because there's nice weather coming. So it's things about that, really. That's what helps. It also helps when you've got big areas of kind of deprived areas with affluence. So, if you're a big county and you've got sort of areas that have, demands for planning permission, but then you've got some more kind of, deprived areas where their needs are different. You can then sort of understand where these people are coming from and then give them a different user journey on your site. So personalisation is about, rather than designing for the lowest common denominator, it's about designing for that specific person based upon all this stuff that we know about. And it's also about simplifying that user journey. So this is our homepage here. And what we have right now is a typical Jadu demo system. Quickly find the home page. Okay, so this is our personalization widget. So at the moment, all we've got is this thing here that's going to change based upon all these different data sources. Now, you have to use your imagination a little bit. So this could be it could be any type of widget, it could be any type of content widget. But just for this demonstration purpose, we're just showing you how these links will change. So also what I've got are some tools to kind of help me cheat where I am and also tell the browser that I'm using a different type of device. So this is what you would see with your top task. This is for someone that's in area. So they're seeing, this is for someone that's outside the area. Oh God, I knew it was going to go wrong. So there we go, that's the reason why. So let's place that pin on Birmingham and refresh. And now we're seeing things relevant to people in area. So garden waste collections, bin collection dates, report of this bin. What this little plugin does is allows me to basically say where I'm coming from. So if I move that to Leicester, refresh, it knows I'm outside the area of Birmingham. And I'll show you how we determine that in a sec. But then it's giving me a different sort of view. So that's how we can do that. So what I want to do is essentially treat people that are outside the area slightly differently because they're not wanting to do those typical council tasks. So if we go into our control center and take a look at the widget, what we've actually got is a whole bunch of links, essentially. And each one of these have got some settings that we can apply to. So let's say, for example, we want to determine that someone's outside the area and we kind of want to show them like what's on, for example. So what I'm going to do is add a new link here. And cheekily, I just copied this from Birmingham. And we'll call this what's on. And this is the important thing. So this is out of area. So this is the tag that I'm going to use. So it's literally out of area. You could have multiple tags. But just for now, we're actually just going to use that. So let's save the link. And then obviously what I have to do is just republish that page. Save and approve. I'm signed in as a super admin. So when I go back, because my location is set outside of Birmingham, what I'm going to see when I refresh this page is a nice what's on link down here, basically. So this is determining that I'm outside of Birmingham, and it's going to show me things that might be relevant as a tourist or someone that's coming into Birmingham. And all that does is literally just link me off to the Birmingham website events page. So this could be a page inside your site, for example. So this is just a simple signposting widget to start off with. What I then want to do is change my location back to Birmingham and enable, so let's just check that that's going to do that. Yeah, it knows I'm back in Birmingham, so I've got my things there. So what I'm going to do is go back to my widget and enable something for mobile view. So for example, well, let's just unclick that. So let's, for example, we know that the behavior of somebody on a mobile device or a desktop device. So if they're on a mobile device, we want them to have the ability to report fly tipping, but they're unlikely to do it based upon analytics to do using a desktop. So they're in the environment, they see some sort of fly tipping, they want to report it there and then. So we can prioritize that content. So what we can do is go into fly tipping, and what you've got here is this tag relevant to mobile. So if I just save that link, come down to the bottom, republish that page, and then what I'm going to do is trick my browser into thinking that I'm a mobile device, and all I'm using is just some of the developer tools built into Chrome to do that. So if I click on that, what we're going to see is a responsive view of our site. If I refresh that, what we'll then get is report fly tipping at the bottom. So it knows that I'm on a mobile device. So this is the same site, basically changing itself, changing its behavior based upon our device, based upon our location. The last thing I'm going to do, which would have been really relevant a few weeks ago, I'm just going to change that back to desktop, is enable what we call our snow signal. So in here, essentially this would be a feed from a weather source, but what we've essentially got down here is a thing that says snow signal, so we can enable that. And then what you see here is this is where we're determining the area that we're actually in. So at the moment we've just got a circle, but that could be the polygon representing your area. So if somebody's just slightly outside the borders of what you look after, that could give somebody a completely different experience. So for example, on a mobile device, if they come to use fly tipping, because we know they're outside that area, we're actually going to remove that link. But in this instance, what we're going to show them, if I just approve this page, nearing the end of this demo, and press approve. So now essentially what we're going to do when I refresh my page is right at the top we get school closures because it's snowing, and that's the first thing that people will probably want to look at.
And you're getting that snow data from the weather service.
That's exactly it, yeah. But that's faked, obviously, because obviously it's not snowing.
It's not really snowing.
Yeah. And that's it. Really simple.
Thank you.